Okay, hello again, everyone. Let's take a closer look at the two different reasons for doubting bivalence that I just took us through. So we're going to think about future contingents and about vagueness. These are both really big areas that people have thought about a lot. We're just going to try to get an initial clear view of what is being expressed, what worries are being expressed when we talk about these two things. So a long way back, there has been worry about statements about future events. This goes back to Aristotle. So we can consider the following discussion about a sea battle. Okay, suppose we say there will be a sea battle tomorrow. Now, that's a statement that we might make at any one point. Okay, and we might be more or less sure about whether it might happen. Okay, during a particular naval war, it might be pretty clear that it's going to happen. Spoken about today, very unclear whether it will or not. Now, here is the reasoning that Aristotle goes through. Well, if it is true today that there will be a sea battle tomorrow, then we can't stop it from happening because it's true. If we did, it would not be true that there will be a sea battle tomorrow. But as we've already said, as we've supposed, it is true that there will be a sea battle tomorrow. So it must take place. Okay? If it's true that there will be a sea battle tomorrow, there must be a sea battle tomorrow. By the same kind of process of reasoning, if it's false today that there will be a sea battle tomorrow, then we can't make it happen. Because if we did make it happen, it wouldn't be false that there will be a sea battle tomorrow. It wouldn't be false that a sea battle happens tomorrow. But by our original assumption, it is false that there will be a sea battle tomorrow. So it cannot take place. So if it's false that there'll be a sea battle tomorrow, then it's impossible for there to be a sea battle tomorrow. It cannot be the case that there will be a sea battle tomorrow. However, the intuitive thought that comes in after this is whether the battle takes place or doesn't, it is a contingent fact. Okay, it could or could not happen. And Aristotle had a serious worry about this. He thought that both of these options, both of these ways of thinking about it, would require us to say that what happens in the future is true by necessity, rather than as a matter of contingency. Now, since assuming either of the things makes the outcome necessary, it might seem that our only solution is to say that it is not either true or false now that there will be a sea battle tomorrow. Okay, we reject the claim that we must either say it's true today or it's false today that there will be a sea battle tomorrow. If we leave it indeterminate whether there will be a sea battle tomorrow, at least until it happens, then we avoid this problem. We are allowed to say that whether the battle takes place or doesn't is a contingent matter. Here's another context where we might raise the question, okay, again in a bit more detail. So for a whole bunch of different predicates, such as bald, red, rich, another one is heap, there are cases where we don't want to say A is F for certain objects, but nor do we want to say A is not F. Okay, for the case of baldness, there are difficult cases. For the case of redness, there is a point between red and orange where we might struggle to say. And for richness, okay, same kind of idea. But it's not just unintuitive. It's not just that we see them and don't want to say one or the other. One worry is that we are at risk of what's called the Sorites paradox, otherwise known as the paradox of the heap, because we think about it in terms of a heap of grains of sand. But let's see how we get this apparent paradox. So we can start, let's think about baldness, by saying that a person with 100,000 hairs on their head is not bald. Apparently, a cursory Google suggests that's more or less the average number of hairs people have on their heads. Okay, so a person with 100,000 hairs on their head is not bald. That seems a pretty acceptable thing to say on the basis of common sense. A person with 0 hairs on their head is bald. Okay, that also seems pretty commonsensical. Just from the meaning of baldness, we're going to be able to say that that is the case. Now, We can next say, if a person with a certain number of hairs on their head is bald, then a person with that many hairs plus one is bald, right? So if the person with no hairs on their head is bald, the person with one hair on their head is bald. If the person with one hair on their head is bald, then the person with two hairs on their head is bald. Okay. Here the thought is that for something like baldness, the change of a single hair cannot be the thing that makes a difference between being bald and not being bald. However, unfortunately, if we combine our second claim and our third claim together, we're going to get the result that a person with 100,000 hairs on their head is bald after all, and that's a contradiction. Right, so we've done that step. If a person with n hairs is bald, a person with n plus 1 hairs is bald 100,000 times, and managed to get from a person with no hairs is bald to a person with 100,000 hairs is bald. But we've now contradicted our common sense judgment that we started with. Now, there are many ways of responding to the Sorites paradox. There's all sorts of different cases that we can consider. But one possibility is to say, maybe we should take seriously our unwillingness to call borderline cases true or false and give them a third truth value. That is to say that at some point, we're not going to accept those inferences we're making anymore, and we're going to have it indeterminate whether somebody is bald or not once we get into the borderline cases. Now, this is more in relation to the first claim about future contingents. A logician called Jan Łukasiewicz in the early 20th century said that to accommodate future contingents, we're going to need a three-valued logic. So he says this: it's possible but not necessary that I shall be present in Warsaw at the given time. On this assumption, the proposition I shall be in Warsaw at noon on the 21st of December of next year can at the present time be neither true nor false. For if it were true now, my future presence in Warsaw would have to be necessary, which is contradictory to the assumption. If it were false now, on the other hand, my future presence in Warsaw would be impossible, which is also contradictory to the assumption. Therefore, the proposition considered is at the moment neither true nor false and must possess a third value different from 0 or falsity and 1 or truth. This value we can designate by 1/2. Okay, so this is just a restatement of Aristotle's worry about the sea battle. So the idea is that we gain ourselves a third truth value. Łukasiewicz describes this truth value as either a half or as possible, but that's a bit misleading. So we'll call it indeterminate. Łukasiewicz's logic is sometimes called, L with a line through it, 3. Now, in this case, it's being applied to future contingents, but it's something we might also decide we want to apply to vagueness. So in the final video for today, we're going to go into a little bit of detail on the technicalities of how we would actually put together a logic like this and some of the challenges that we come across, which show us that it's not a simple matter to revise our logic. If we want to find a good alternative candidate, difficult questions arise for us.